Howdy, and happy Easter from Hazard Reviews. Well, I reviewed if you remember last year, when the whole world was in lockdown, I reviewed it two movies for Easter, that being Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I figured, well, why don't we do something special here, but I'm only going to do one review. And this time it's actually going to be something related for Easter, which in this case is Winnie the Pooh Springtime Review. Let's just get some music going, and hang on a sec. She's not here. Okay. Here we go. Yeah, so Winnie the Pooh Springtime Review. Now this, I've stated maybe before in Pooh's Great Adventure that Winnie the Pooh was basically all I mostly saw from Disney when I was a kid. I mean, yeah, there was The Lion King and Pixar, and there were Tarzan was there as well, and the straight-to-video sequels, but Winnie the Pooh is the one I knew the most. And I heard a lot of stuff related to Winnie the Pooh when I was younger, especially their movies. I mean, I had a few episodes of The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, but I mostly stuck with the movies. I mean, as I said, I had Pooh's Great Adventure, I had the Tigger movie, I had Big Little Big movie. I even still own Grand Adventure and the Tigger movie, because I really do love those films. I've reviewed Grand Adventure, I might one day review Tigger movie. But today we're reviewing Springtime Review. Now, I haven't owned this in ages. This was one of the stuff I had on VHS, and well, I'm not sure if I'll ever put it back in my collection. So, why is that? Well, let's get started. So, it's an Easter thing, Winnie the Pooh movie, and it's which makes sense because Winnie the Pooh has done a lot of Christmas stuff, but first time for Easter, and Rue's the central character. So, what's the premise? So, it's Easter in the 100-acre wood, and everyone goes to, and Rue is absolutely excited because it's his favorite holiday. So along with Tigger, Piglet, Pooh, and Eeyore, they go to Rabbit's house to start playing Easter. Only it turns out Rabbit isn't celebrating Easter. He's instead doing a spring cleaning day. But they think that Rabbit's forgotten about Easter and try to bring it back, but Rabbit is completely angry that they ruined his plans, and kicks them out of his house and bans Easter altogether. Something that surprises everyone, more so Rue and Tigger. So while Rue tries to get everything prepared in case so Tigger has to change Rabbit's mind while Rue tries to plan everything out on his own. But Tigger eventually learns that after the previous year's Easter, and due to him replacing Rabbit in his main role as the Easter Bunny, Rabbit doesn't like Easter anymore. So Tigger and basically does not want anyone to celebrate it because he believes they shouldn't celebrate because they took away what he loved the most about it, and refused to even follow along with his plans by making it more professional rather than being a holiday. But while everyone else gives up, the narrator has a plan in mind by showing Rabbit the future of what would happen if he continues on the path he does. So yeah, it's basically a Christmas Carol, and you know what? An Easter-themed Christmas version of a Christmas Carol is a good idea. It can work. In fact, I'm not sure, but I think maybe someone has already done something like this, an Easter Christmas Carol, and has actually worked. But as far as I know, this is the only one I know. And unfortunately, it does not work here. It fails. It fails completely. I'm being honest. It's tough to swallow it. I mean, as a kid, I didn't mind it. But now as an adult, I can't say the same thing about this. So, why is that? Well, there's a lot of problems, really. The more I'm not sure I call these all nitpicks and all that, but let's just go over some of them. Well, as I said, the concept's great, but they don't utilize it well. I mean, yeah, they throw in a few. They basically have the same structure and include references here and there to what goes on. Like, of course, you get the scenes in the past, the present, and the future. Yeah, you have the narrator being acting a bit like a ghost. Even Tigger sort of comes into Rabbit's house and spooks him out, sort of like Jacob Marley does with Scrooge. But that's, again, it's not really utilized that well. But of course, there is two. But of course, you got to work into the two main But here's the thing. So basically, you can pretty much count these as roles. You've got Rabbit as Scrooge, Roo as Bob Marley. As Bob Cratchit. Sorry, not Bob Marley. Sorry. Roo is Bob Cratchit. The narrator is the ghost. Tigger is basically a ghost as well as Jacob Marley, while the other characters are basically just I'll explain later. So, but really the focus is mostly on Roo and Rabbit. Roo is the main character at the very least. His name's in the title. And here's the thing, Roo can work as a lead in the main film. I mean, Pooh's Heffalump movie is a prime example of that. The Tigger movie as well. Roo works great as a main character. But for being his first movie as the main one, not counting being the secondary main heroes in the Tigger movie, Roo isn't even the main. All he wants is just a good Easter and just try to make Rabbit happy. But you don't see enough of Roo. Yeah, he steals he's basically, you see the most of him at the beginning, but basically from the middle, when Rabbit fully enters the picture, he takes over the main character. He is the Scrooge of this story. So this should be Winnie the Pooh Springtime with Rabbit, not Springtime with Roo. Because as I said, Roo is Bob Cratchit, and Bob Cratchit is absent for a fair bit of Christmas Carol. So, but maybe that can still work as long as because let's be fair, Rabbit hasn't really had a main movie where he's the main star. I mean, yeah, he plays roles in others, but he isn't really the main star of it. So, but unfortunately, the problem is, Rabbit is incredibly unlikable in this. I mean, yeah, look at Scrooge. Yes, we grow to... Yeah, he's a grumpy, canonical, self-centered person, and that's basically what Rabbit acts like in this. But here's the thing. No matter what... The magic of the story of A Christmas Carol is you find yourself actually identifying. You grow to like Scrooge. You grow to explore his life. You grow to, and he does invoke a certain charm to him. He isn't stubborn, and we see that through the ghosts. He does show fear. He does show a willingness to go along with things. He isn't. Yeah, he's still, until the end, he is still, until we get to say, he still is basically a bit of that. Yeah, we grow. He is still a nuisance, but he's not necessarily. As we grow to the story, we grow to love him even more. In fact, even at the beginning, let's be fair, you can identify with Scrooge. With Rabbit, no matter, yes, he's following the same pattern. And you can basically say the same thing with any form of Winnie the Pooh, because he does act that way in very sorts of manners. Specifically starting from the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. But here's the thing. Rabbit we know has a short temper. But here in this, he is so unbelievably... He's totally unlikable. He does not... He stays stubborn, even when they're showing him, even when others are showing him various things that should make him change his mind. But he doesn't budge. He still remains stubborn. Yeah, he shows a bit of fear now and then between the narrator and Tigger in in their attempts to change things. But no matter what he does, he still barks out. He still argues. He still remains self-centered. He continues to be a douche, basically. He doesn't show any peeling away of his stuff, no matter what he does, and shoves everyone away. Okay, the narrator still stands by, still continues to follow him. But here's a prime example. When Rabbit, after viewing the past, returns to the present, the narrator purposely stops him at the page at Rue's house, just so he can see that Rue is shattered and wants to make it up to Rabbit. And for a moment, it looks like he's actually listening and taking it to heart. But you know what? After that scene where Rue finishes singing, he brushes it off and just shoves off, doesn't care. That is awful. At least when you see Scrooge seeing Bob Cratchit's family and Tiny Tim, he does show a bit of empathy. Rabbit just brushes it off. And here's the thing: when you get to the scene where Rabbit finally is in the future, and here's another thing. So when you get to the scene where Rabbit's in the future and finds out the future that he's basically the bad future he's going to live in, with Scrooge, you feel sorry for him. Rabbit, I do not feel sorry for him at all. He deserves it. And then there's the other thing. When Rabbit finally changes his ways and decides to bring back Easter at the end, he continues to he does a bit of a bluff to fool everyone that he's still grumpy before he gives them a good Easter. But the problem is, when you look at A Christmas Carol, when Scrooge wakes up and changes his ways, he interacts with the town leading up to it. Leading up to he goes to Bob Cratchit's house. Then so everyone sees him. Everyone else sees him that he's changed differently, but only when he gets to Bob Cratchit, he fools him for a bit before he shows a different side. In a few scenes of Christmas Carol, adaptations. I mean, I don't think Mickey's anyway. But the fact of the matter, here's the thing: outside the narrator, no one sees Rabbit when he wakes up and changes his ways. So there's no real proof he's going to act differently when he gets to them. They screw this character up so badly in this. And here's another thing. Yeah, you could say Rabbit's very much like that, but and you could say the same thing with other stuff like the Tig movie, Piglet's Big Movie, Pooh's Grand Adventure. Rabbit acts that way as well. And yes, that is true. But there are three things that those movies do better. Well, okay, individually elements that they work compared to this. And what are they? In the Tigger movie, yes, he does act he is very selfish. He ignores everyone and doesn't even care to help Tigger at all with his whole predicament. But here's the thing. At least in this case, Rabbit has got his own priorities. Winter's coming up. He needs to prepare everything for it. And I guess you could say, and even though here's the thing, he ignores everything, and yes, he is responsible for getting Tigger into this predicament and everyone else. And when he does realize that he is responsible, yes, he tries to hide it, but when he realizes that how much Tigger means to them and everyone else, and realizes he has to make it up, he acknowledges it. So in this case, he's got his own priorities to worry about, and he realizes his mistake and promises and tries to make things better for everyone else. In Pooh's Grand Adventure, in Pooh's Grand Adventure, The Search for Christopher Robin, yes, he argues. Yes, his arrogance gets them into trouble. But what works in that movie is he does show vulnerability because he has a crisis in believing he's not smart enough. So in this case he shows vulnerability. And then in Piglet's big movie, yes, he makes a big mistake by getting into an argument with Tigger and leading everyone out and causing them to get set back. But the difference is in this, he's on the same page as everyone else, and when the event happens where things get wrong, it falls in. He is quick to not only to sympathize, including apologizing, including showing remorse towards showing his remorse to Tigger. He knows that he doesn't try to defend himself. So in this case we have his own. So in this case he does. So we have all these things where he shows vulnerability. In Piglet and in this he doesn't. And not only doesn't he show accountability or responsibility, or even have his own. And also doesn't have a good agenda for making this problem. He doesn't even have a good agenda to follow. That could make us sympathize with him in why he's going this way. This is why this doesn't work. And then we get to the other characters. I mean, yes, other than the narrator and Tigger, who do have purpose in this, Pooh, Piglet, Eeyore, and Kanga barely have any purpose. Kanga's barely in it. Pooh and Piglet just, are there. I mean, I can understand a bit with Eeyore a little bit, because we actually do get to see him smile a lot in this, a bit more in this, and he does show he has a bit of a soft spot and thing that actually makes him happy. But that's barely about it. And then of course you got other characters missing, and Al is missing. There's no mention of him, but with Christopher Robin, they open up in a similar way as the Tigger movie, where they show live action Christopher Robin's bedroom. There's the exact same shot from the Tigger movie, but he does not show up at all. The narrator mentions him. That's about it. Basically, once Roo jumps out of the book, that's it. The songs are forgettable, honestly. This is probably the worst sort of songs to come out of Winnie the Pooh, which is upsetting because after the Piglet's big movie, they actually had all the characters sing this. So it's unfortunate that it failed spectacularly. They didn't get any good tunes. I barely remember the songs, honestly. I might maybe remember a bit of the verses from when the Rabbit's Easter Plain song, but that's about it. And so what can work in this? Well, there are a few things. First off, I did basically give a lot of flack towards how the Nightmare Future scene was handled. For what it is, I actually don't mind it. Yeah, I'm just saying because I think Rabbit deserved what he got, but it is handled well, and the fact that they do handle things differently, so it is unique in that sort of sense. As I said, the concept of this film is a good idea. Well, actually, moving back onto that, the voice acting is still good. I mean, all the actors in this, they know their roles spot on and do a good job. I mean, Jim Cummings as Pooh and Tigger. You've got Peter Cullen as Eeyore, Ken Sampson as Rabbit. So you've Kath Soucie as Kanga. I forget Roo's actor's name, but he was in daycare, so they didn't get the same actor at the time, but works out. This is probably the last This is also one of the last films to feature John Fielder, the original Piglet, before he passed away a year later. I mean, yeah, he did work on Pooh's Heffalump movie and the Halloween movie a little, but yeah, okay. Well, he fully did Heffalump movie. He only did part of Heffalump Halloween, but yeah. they do their good job. But the best one is actually David Ogden Stirs as the narrator, who you may remember as Codsworth from Beauty and the Beast, and Nicky Flippers from Hoodwinked. I mean, he's done a few other things. He was in Pocahontas and he was even in MASH. But he's probably one of the best narrators in the series. Not just for the fact that he has a main role in this, but he's also he also is determined to get everything going in the exact way, and is determined to look out for every character in the book. So in many, he wants the best for every character. He is really funny and entertaining to listen to. So yeah, great job, David. You did a great job, and it's a shame you're no longer around the world. And the animation is decent, but I consider it a step down, because honestly I think Tigger Movie and Grand Adventure look a lot better and fit more well to the Winnie the Pooh universe than this does. And as I said, this film, the concept of this film is good, and while I think in the right hands it can work, in this case it falls flat. And it's hard for me to say this, but for me to hate something from Winnie the Pooh. But I just can't like this movie. I want to like it, but I love Winnie the Pooh, but it just angers me to even say this is a Winnie the Pooh film. I'm not, and it's tough. I mean, this is definitely one of Disney's worst straight-to-video films. It's not often mentioned among their worst. I mean, the straight-to-video sequels do often show up the most, but this is one of the ones I hate the most. So yeah, it's a shame. I definitely have no complaints saying this is the worst Winnie the Pooh movie, and definitely one of the worst Disney animated productions I've seen. It gets a 3 out of 10 hair stars from me, honestly, and it's a shame too. In many ways this reminds me a lot of the Addams Family movie, where it looks like Winnie the Pooh, it sounds like Winnie the Pooh, it treats itself like Winnie the Pooh, but in the end, it's nothing like Winnie the Pooh. So yeah, it's a tough one to swallow. And look, if you like it, all the power to you. I mean, I'm sure it's got its fans, but for me, it just falls flat. Yeah, and it's a shame too. I guess it's a shame too, because I really wanted to. I guess it's not the way a review I wanted to do for Easter originally, but in the end I figured this would be a good thing to talk about. But, and honestly, I felt I much rather want to do this than have to sit through Tom and Jerry Meets Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I know I've got to do that eventually, but yeah, it would have made more sense. It would have been perfect to review this for this, considering the new Tom and Jerry movie's out in theaters. But in the end, I still can't bring myself to watch it. But one day I will. One day I will. But in the meantime, that's the end of this. So what's my next review? Well, in terms of movies coming out in theaters this month, I would say Mortal Kombat would be the next one I would review. Other than that, I'm trying to see if I can do a video game or book review. And of course, when Falcon the Winter Soldier finishes, I'll review that. That's basically what I'm going to be doing for every Marvel show. I'm going to review the whole series, when everything's out. Some would say it's lazy, considering what I did with Game of Thrones, but keep in mind, my review schedule isn't what it was back in 2019. I gotta do things differently to accommodate my work life and my stuff doing here on YouTube. Plus, I've also got to work out time before the flick as well, which will probably be another episode coming out soon. Not sure what it will be, but I'm sure you'll like whatever I come up with. Who knows, might even be up by Monday. But in the meantime, all I can say, well, I all wish you have a happy Easter. Get plenty of chocolate. Spend time with your family. Think of the Easter Bunny. And above all, well, if you watch this, find out what you want. It's not, as I said before, with all my other reviews that I've hated, everything's personal preference. No person's going to like the same thing. So, all the power to you. Give it a chance. See what you come up with. Everything's going to be different. And again, as I said, I love Winnie the Pooh. This just isn't my favourite. And who knows, I'll get to one of my favourites eventually again. I mean, I'll review Tigger Movie one day. But in the meantime, I am Hazard from Hazard Reviews out. Happy Easter, and above all, enjoy your time, enjoy the day.